Welcome back, everyone, to Heart in Teaching. I am so happy that you are here because I have a lot of tips that I want to share with my parents for the parent edition. So thank you for subscribing to Heart in Teaching. My name is Carrie Williams. I am a 4th grade special educator in New Jersey, and this is my 19th year of teaching. And every year is different, and I will not forget this year for sure. This is a year to remember. So I'm happy that you're here with me and taking this opportunity to listen to a few ideas that I would like to share. Today is truly some ideas that will help a lot of the parents that I know. And these ideas and tips have been genuinely created from just being in my house. I have 3 children. They are from 2nd grade to a junior in high school to a junior in college. And we're all here in the same house. How exciting. So these tips came from opportunities in my house that I realized, wow, this really works. Let me share it. So I compiled these essential tips and I wanted to share them with you. Let's get started. Parent edition number 1. You should know what your child's schedule looks like. So no matter if your child is in kindergarten or all the way up to college, honestly, you should know what they should be doing on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. You should know what your child is doing Thursday at 2 o'clock. The schedule rules everything. Even if your child is not doing well academically, if your child logs in and follows that schedule, not only will your child's peers see that effort, but your child's teachers will see the effort as well. So if we could just follow the schedule, that would be fantastic. In my house, we compiled everyone's schedule and we put it into one schedule. And that way we know where every person is every day, every hour, basically. That's how we get through. So the first thing is know your child's schedule. Be familiar with their Google Meets if they're using Google Meets, or their Zoom or their Canvas, whatever platform they're using. You should know that as a parent. It will only help everyone in the long run. So let's move on to my list. I want to get through this list and I don't want to leave anything out. So forgive me. I am looking at my journal. There's no cue cards here. It's just a fancy marble notebook with all of my tips in it. So let's go to the next area. Workspace. The workspace of your child is truly important. It is a reflection. It should be a reflection of your child. It should not just be a desk and a computer and a fancy Pinterest corner in the house. It really needs to be a reflection on what's going to help your child stay focused. For my daughter, Isabella, my 2nd grader, she likes the little squishy balls. This is not to distract her peers, but it's a way to keep her fingers moving. And I tell her if she plays with it, it's gone. Just that simple. We move on to something else. But right now, this ball does the trick. She's a second grader. She's 7 years old, and she sits all day from about 8:30 she logs in to 2:35 she logs out. So it's pretty strenuous for her. And as a parent, we have to think about what makes our kids happy. What do they really like to do that's not going to distract the lesson or their learning, but they're not getting up as well. I have some artwork over here. This reminds me that even giving your child a sketch pad will help maintain their workspace and keep them engaged in listening, but they're still trying to reduce those distractions. Let's go into workspace a little further. So the workspace should also contain that schedule that I talked about. In your child's workspace, the schedule should be visual, it should be posted, it should be clear and concise, so that even if they are a 2nd grader like Isabella, they should be able to look at this by now. Because it is November, they should know what schedule they're following, even if you are in another room. A lot of times what I notice as a teacher, the parents think, oh, they're in 4th grade, they're in 5th grade, I can walk away. The problem is when we walk away, they're getting into something else. And that's going to lead me to another tip down the line in this video. So let's get to it. After the work area, let's talk about staying organized. Okay. Organization is a word that we hear often, but many times we think that it's something that's tangible and that's the only way that we can say organize. Not necessarily true. I'm going to show you some tangibles, but I'm also going to tell you how it helps the mind recall things from your child's day. Staying organized in that workspace is going to use some items like this. So first we have a family calendar that's actually in my kitchen. This keeps everyone on track, but most importantly, to help your child succeed academically, you want to make sure your child has a homework pad of some sort. Doesn't have to be the fancy one from the PTO. Basically, you just need an precise calendar, maybe an area where they can write down their subjects. This is going to be fine. This is Isabella's planner. She picked this out from the dollar store. It's cute, it's fun, and it also holds her accountable. So let's talk about that mental organization. We as parents and teachers, we prompt students and we prompt our children with something physical. Here's a homework pad. Write down everything you need to do. But mentally, that helps our children stay organized and it helps them recall what they did in their day. By 3 o'clock, these kids can be wiped out. So going back to the homework pad is also going to help them say, okay, back to the math section. What do I have in math? What do I have in reading? So even as an adult, how many of us have planners and, things on our phone? Let's talk about the screen. Yes. Can your child use the Google Calendar to stay organized? Sure. But there's a caveat to that. To be quite honest, during this remote world, as a parent, I want my daughter off the screen at some point of her day. So I felt like using the traditional homework pad where they still have to pick up a pencil or pen and write things down. I think it's a nice way to incorporate that into their day. Okay, so using the homework pad, I still find very essential. Now let's talk about more organization skills. Some organization tools are also the timer. The timer helps with preparedness, being organized, and managing our time. That's a part of mental organization. How many minutes do I have left before I have to go back on my Google Meet? Many teachers use a timer and they display in their Google Slides and their music and everything else. But what about using a timer when your child is not in school? So right now, Isabel is using this timer to manage her video game time on her tablet. So we set this timer and then she knows when the timer goes off, don't ask me any questions, put it down and move on and find another activity. So the use of the timer is extremely beneficial, especially for our elementary students. It helps them stay engaged and it gives them some accountability during this COVID time of virtual learning. Also, if your child has to do a reading log or a math program, you can say, you're not going to be finished with this until your 25 minutes is up. So don't try to rush and get through that assignment. You want to hold them accountable for sitting for 25 minutes or standing for 25 minutes doing what they're supposed to do. So the timer really helps with organization. Last but not least, things we take for granted: sharpening the pencils at nighttime or getting your child to take ownership by taking some responsibility in managing their own area, organizing their own space. So having them sharpen their pencil at nighttime would help. Doing that as a family, let's get your space together, that would help. So organization is a really, really big thing that we can't take for granted. We're getting closer to my last two essentials. I'm really excited about it. The next one is something called daily check-ins. Now let's have a serious talk. As parents, like I said, I have 3 kids, 7 years old, 16 years old, and 20 years old. Daily check-ins should not be vague questions like, how was your day? That, we have to just throw those in the trash. How was your day is great, but it has to be more specific. How was your day in math today? What did you do? How was your day in reading? Did you complete your reading log? How was your day in writing? Did you write that narrative yet? Asking how your child's day was really needs to be specific, especially on this virtual platform where they are specifically asked to do certain things and turn it in on the same object. So it's really important that when we ask our child, how was your day? It has to be specific. Now, here's another tip. When you think about daily check-ins does not just have to be parent and child. A daily check-in can also be a parent and a teacher. So let's think about, does your child's teacher use Class Dojo, the Remind app? Do they have ways to communicate with them? Because a check-in could also be, hey, I'm so-and-so's parent. I just want to know how they're doing. That's it. Now, I'm not saying, check in with your child's teacher every day. We're all human. We all need our time to gather our ideas and prepare. However, check-ins can look different. It doesn't have to just be one layout of a check-in. It could definitely be checking in with other parents. If you live in a neighborhood, I know in my neighborhood, there's parents that I used to always walk in with to school at the same time. And it's like, oh, you start to know each other. Checking in with other people, and it's just very, very important. I think it's something that we used to take for granted, but now it's appreciated so much more. So those daily check-ins are essential. Let's get to the last one. So the last one is called, what are the dailies? And what I mean by dailies are, what are some of the things that your child does on a daily basis? For example, I'm a public school teacher, and pretty much the reading log is one of those things that we all have in common. Every child usually has some kind of reading log. Most schools have a certain time that they should practice a math program. Every day they should practice a math program for 20 minutes. What are your child's dailies? Do you know? What is something that your child has to do on a daily basis? If it is something like their reading log, you should know that as a parent. So every single day when you do that daily check-in, you should bring up the dailies. Has your child worked on a math program for 20 minutes? And if that is true, you might want to ask to see it. You might want to say, well, what was it about? How long did you stay on? Did you set your timer? Did we set the timer? So those daily check-ins and knowing what your child has to do on a daily basis is so instrumental in this virtual learning. And I say that because oftentimes those small things like a reading log, they really go unchecked, and those are things that could pull your child's grade down. So you definitely want to check in with that. Last but not least, two things I want to end with reward time. If your child is really doing all those things and they're really trying to be positive, they're doing their reading logs, they're checking in with you, they're talking about their day, you want to reward them. You want to reward them with meaningful things. So if that means extra video game time, baking a snack together, making something together, going on a trip, you're going to have to step it up as a parent, and teachers as well. We have to step it up with rewarding these kids who are in this pandemic, which we didn't go to school in this pandemic, so we don't know how it's going to affect them down the line. So we want to make sure that we're putting in some kind of reward time, and it doesn't have to be something you could put a price on, but it's just quality time with your child. And social play. Let's not take for granted the beauty of a play date. As much as teachers and we want to make videos and share ideas, sometimes a good old-fashioned hanging out, making sure your child has time to hang out with someone that they saw in school, a friend from school. What this looked like from me and my daughter was I just called another parent and said, hey, do you want to meet at the park? Oh, no. We called it an emergency play date. It was one of those days where I was stressing as a teacher, and I was just like, Isabel, I'm so tired. And she's tired too. She's right in the other room, and she goes, I'm so tired. And I said, we need a play date. And I called the other mom and I said, emergency play date, emergency play date. Can I take your daughter for like 20 minutes to the park? And I kid you not, she was like, no problem. She had her daughter ready, dressed, and we had an emergency play date. And boy, let me tell you, weeks later, my daughter still remembers that play date. So during this time, emotional, social, academic, it's all very, very important, but the emotional really stands out, and we have to make sure that everyone is okay. So like I said, let's just recap some of the essentials. Parent edition. Thank you for subscribing to Heart in Teaching. Repeat, let's go. Number 1, make sure that you know your child's schedule. Make sure that you have a nice, solid work area that is suitable for your child. And it should be a reflection of your child's personality and what your child needs to get through the day. Next, you want to stay organized. What does organization mean? It means you should have any kind of notebook where your child has to write down their homework or their classwork, what they did each day. It should be written down, and that's going to help them mentally recall things that they learned throughout the day, and it's going to keep a visual tracking of what they did and what they're responsible for throughout the day. Homework pads are great. Timers like my best friend. Your child should be accountable and learn how to use this timer. They can use it for in-school activities and outside of school activities. Sharpening pencils, getting the work area organized should be a natural part of every day, and they can take part of it. It could be a chore for them. They can do it. It could be a family thing, but it's very instrumental. Next, daily check-ins, not the vague question, how was your day? Be specific. How was your day in math? How was your day in reading? How was your day in writing? Checking in with a teacher is also considered a daily check-in. Hi, so-and-so. How was my child's day today in math? I know we were struggling with subtraction. You want to be specific. Just show that you're checking in with a teacher. As a teacher, I greatly appreciate parents who reach out to me. I tell them it saves everyone a headache. Because remember, we don't know that your child is struggling with things that you might see at home. So it just helps on all levels. And last but not least, what are the dailies? what are things that your child has to do on a daily basis. You should know that as a parent because it's going to make your life easier. It's going to make your child's life easier. If it's a reading log, if it's math practice, you can make sure that you're responsible for checking in with your child, and your child checks in with you too. So now we're going to take a little field trip to Isabella's workspace just so that you can see a little snippet of some of the things that I have in her workspace. And I'm so sorry, I don't like long videos, but I tried to make this one short. I'm talking super fast. Thank you for subscribing to Heart in Teaching. Let's go over and check out her area. Okay, this is an area in our dining room. As you can see, a makeshift desk, table. On the bottom, just some of her paper and supplies in a basket, index cards, and so forth. Isabella had school today, so things were definitely used up. But what I can recommend is labeled notebooks. Nothing fancy, just labeled notebooks so that your child knows exactly which notebooks to pull. Then obviously her paper, your child's paper, anything that they need to just write a few notes on. This is upside down because this little makeshift area is in our dining room, and that's totally okay. Use the space that you have. Everyone's space is going to look different. But most importantly, you want to keep things in their space that is meaningful to them and that makes them feel good about school, even though some of these pictures are a little kooky. I really favor them, and I love Isabella's artwork. So she made this little face, the drawing, because that was the first week of school, and that's what she decided to do. So you want to definitely exaggerate all of those great moments that your child has. This was a poster that she did talking about citizenship and how to treat each other. Keep your child's schedule very close to them so that they get used to looking at it on their own. I also recommend any kind of makeshift bin or shower caddy that you have to organize their pencils and crayons, things like this. You can make a little sign for your child so they don't get in trouble just holding it up or raising their hand when they need help. All of these things are accessible to Isabella so that while I'm teaching, she can be confident and responsible at the same time. So I'm just looking over here, just a few notepads. I think I also put some mints, some old mints that we had in the house, just so that she has something tangible to touch, to eat, something that's small, not going to have a lot of distraction. Highlighters, also important. Post-it notes, things like that. You get the point. One day she used pen for math. I almost freaked out, but I wanted to supply her with all of the things that make her feel special. Headphones, there you go, behind the dining room curtain. Obviously, your child's textbook should all be in one area so that it's not overwhelming. They feel good about knowing how to get their own things. As you can see, her math and science notebook is labeled. Her workbooks are here in her folders to contain those extra papers. When your child has finished their day, by all means, they should be able to pack up themselves and take care of their area. Isabella, you can say hi.
Hi.
All right. So this is her little area, and this is one of the things that we can do to make your child successful during remote learning.